All right, it's going to be back with another living room talk from Arraymusic. It is now the middle of June already. I can't believe how fast things have gone. And I am here with my old friend, Dai Fujikura, live from just outside of London, right? You're outside.
It's in London. It's in London.
Are you in London?
Yeah.
I couldn't remember. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, it's great to see Dai again. Dai was we did a big concert with really, it was more of a marathon of your works, Dai, a collaboration with a few other organizations, and that was Array's last pre-pandemic normal concert
with the audience,
with an audience there.
Yeah, amazing.
And yeah, it was February 28th or something.
Yeah.
Of 2020, and obviously a great deal has happened in the world since then.
Yeah.
And you were the person that, if of all the friends that I sort of felt like maybe have kind of flourished in the pandemic, you seem to have found the silver lining to some of this stuff. Obviously, it's not ideal, but I feel like you've managed to make. This is purely from Facebook, of course. You've managed to make the best of an awful situation of all the people I know.
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, like you've taken up an instrument, and you.
Yes.
And you're obviously, this is, for someone who traveled endlessly, you're at home more with your family, and it seems like, silver linings are good sometimes, and yeah.
Yeah, well, he taught me many things, and for example, so the piece I wrote to be performed over Zoom or teleperformance piece, which because I'm this, because I'm the kind of composer who writes everything. And which is fine for orchestral setups, because everybody knows what to do. 2 days rehearsal and the concert should go okay.
Yeah.
But I always fancy the composer who is opposite, who doesn't do those things, like Pauline Oliveros and all the other composers. I mean, in my festival, I'm artist director in a music festival called Bonn Creative Festival in Tokyo, and I create together with everybody. We create pretty much a lot of composers like that, and so therefore I have this kind of, how can I say, like the kind of composer, like a small child always looking up, like wanting to be. But it's what I am is a completely opposite and different.
Yeah,
and I'm always I was frustrated about myself, and it's true. Like yourself, I mean, I always get great musicians like yourself and your ensembles and those guys playing my music, so it's great. But at the same time, it's sort of pity that as if it's my music is so complex. So as if it's like you have to be that good to perform that piece. I mean, surely music shouldn't be that way only, So I was very frustrated and quite disappointed by myself. So therefore, this pandemic happened, and then this music for Zoom or teleperformance, which I just wrote it as an experiment, because obviously we have nothing to do in pandemic.
Yeah.
So I did, and then I wrote this, and then that was my first time to sort of kind of open score, and then
is that your first open score?
First, yeah. I can't. I mean, how to let go the control, because I am a composer, so that means it is natural for me to write what I want you to do. Let's say. What to play, let's say. It's easy. 2 second beat goes this, third beat this, the next bar. It's something I do since when I was very little. So it's so weird. So if I write this, so maybe that another musician would do completely different, or this, or so that's weird. That's strange. But anyway, I tried, and it was lucky because of the musicians. It was a Kazuki Yamada, who's a conductor who's never who's so busy flying around all the time, but because he's at home, obviously, lockdown. So and he's got his choir. Guess what? All singers at home too. So he said, do you want to write music, something we can do on Zoom? And if you want, we're all here. You can experiment over Zoom. So I could make this. And then, so anyway, to just end this story, so I wrote this piece, several experiments and stuff. So this piece, I wrote this, and then I made that score available for free download. So I didn't let it published or anything. So free download from my website. And then to this date, I don't know, is it 21
There's been a
versions, ensembles? That's what I know, but there are many others. I don't know.
It's been orchestra. There's been like a couple different percussion ensembles.
Yeah, that's many percussions. I mean, I never heard it. I never had like a 40 marimbas played together on Zoom.
Honestly, neither have I. Yeah, live or into.
And then one day was a funny thing. Somebody I knew who told me, she's the sho player. Sho is a Japanese traditional instrument, which is a mouth organ. And she told me that I'm listening to your piece for Zoom. This music is for gagaku. You just don't know it. So let me show you. I said, yeah, please be my guest. So she and her colleagues, gagaku ensemble, the group, and then they got together on Zoom, and they played it. And then they told me that one question. So what is it? Is it two questions actually? And one, she asked me that, do you want us to wear like normal clothes, or do you want us to wear a costume which is like 1300 years old? Right. Well, I mean, the costumes from the 1300 years ago, and that's what they usually wear. And of course, you have to wear that costume, not the normal t-shirts. Okay. And the second is that we were wondering, can you conduct? And then that to me. So I had to tell them, you guys have been playing music without conductor for 1300 years. I mean, if somebody had to conduct this, it means like, how bad is this piece? So can you please do it without me or without any conductor? So that's how they did. And it was a strange, it was very interesting for me to look at such an ancient instruments and play and on Zoom. I mean, what
are you now writing a show concerto, or was it?
It's no, actually, yeah. So this is a funny thing you asked that, because until very recently, I've never grew up with the Japanese instruments at all. I never heard, I never seen it live or anything. So only recently people start asking me to write music for Japanese traditional instruments. So which I have no idea. So I had to collaborate like this online to do it. And then I just finished, I'm just writing Shakuhachi concerto now.
Shakuhachi, that's how I know this.
But I've just had a premiere, even though within last 2 months ago, I had a world premiere, surprisingly, for Koto concerto, so Koto and an orchestra. And then I have got shamisen concerto, which was performed in New York and many other places. So those were the things. Yes, and then the instrument you said is because when I was writing for shamisen, which is that like a Japanese lute or guitar or something like this, because I had no idea because of the instrument. I have no idea, never seen it live. I don't know anybody. I don't know any, I never heard my parents say that I went to shamisen concert, never. I don't know, maybe because they're not cultural, but I don't know, but just, I never heard it. So then when I was writing shamisen concerto, the shamisen player, Hideji Honjo, he sent me, without telling me, he sent me an instrument. so can you imagine, like one day, open the door, there's a box. I mean, like the end of the movie Seven or something, the box, right. What's there? I mean, because usually people know what's coming with that kind of box. Especially when it's substantial, Yeah, and then I open up and this is shamisen, wow. And then, so I had it anyway. So to have a feel to it, that was very nice of him to send. So then pandemic hit. And then I just thought, maybe he can teach me every week. And it's continuing now. So in fact, after this Zoom, I'm going to practice it for my weekend lesson.
That's great. So then, I remember you started taking lessons and you're very diligently practicing every day.
That's right. It's a pretty yeah, it's a kind of, I learned quite a lot. I think in the situation of lockdown, I guess. I mean, and as you said that I live in London, so maybe perhaps news people know in the news that UK hit quite hard, and the lockdown period was very long. I mean, really long. Like this year, it only started to open up like April or something, or March, April. I can't remember. It was something like this. So yeah, I mean, it's a. I don't you think that isn't that like the only period that actually composers have not complained about being in lockdown, isn't it? I mean, it's kind of strange. The composers always moaning and whining and all these things. But it's the only
there were several composers who were like, yeah, I mean, I'm still alone in a room in front of a computer putting notes on a page. It's not a whole lot of difference.
It's not like, yeah, and then also the traveling and stuff doesn't happen. So it's kind of really concentrated on in my case, this is it. And I have a bunch of games, video games in front of me and the studio equipment. So I mean, I have everything I need. And I'm familiar with me. That's great. So
yeah. So let's back up a little bit.
Sorry, yes.
Let's talk about no. This is awesome. But let's talk about like your background. So and like where you started and where you got to, and that sort of thing.
I mean, okay. So I was born in Japan, Osaka, and yeah. But anyway, so what can I say?
Did you start an instrument at a young age? Did you?
Yeah. So yes, okay. Yeah. So I'll go very quickly then. I started piano when I was 5, and I had a particularly strict piano teacher, good piano teacher. You're talking about like a 1980s Japanese style piano teacher. I mean, that's like hard, but yeah,
ruler. Did you use a ruler?
Yeah. And but also she was good, and also my mom was taking notes in lessons and stuff. It's a whole stuff, and but I just don't know what my mother was putting down on a paper, because all I was just being told off, and then my teacher was right, because I tell you, because I had an issue with playing those so-called great masterpieces, I would imagine, because I was only learning Mozart, Beethoven, Bach, Haydn, all that stuff, all the German guys, I guess, German-speaking guys at the time, and I just didn't get it. As in, especially like a Haydn, I still don't understand. What are all these things like rest? I don't understand. So kind of weird pace he has, and then I don't really understand. So I kind of, when I was little, like 8, I would just keep changing them. I was just cutting them, changing them, all sorts of things, like really juggling everything. And then, of course, it's because she's a good teacher. That's true. And so she tell me off. I mean, I would tell a student off if I were teaching a student who's not playing exactly what the score said, I guess. So anyway, so then I got told off every single week, and then I don't know. As I said again, I don't know what my mother was putting down on a little notebook, which is just the same thing. Just play the notes, because I wasn't. So anyway, then one day I just realized, I just clicked, because my mother was going to every Thursday. She went to like an amateur choir thing to sing. So I was alone at home, and I was alone at home, supposed to be practicing the piano, and I just realized that why I'm getting told off every week. Just because of what I'm playing is not matching the score in front of me. So that's kind of easy. Just change them, not me. Change the score. So then I just realized that if I just write from the beginning, not like changing somebody else's work, like Haydn or whatever this guy is, has nothing to do with me anyway.
So if you just wrote what you wanted, if you just wrote what you wanted to play,
exactly. So but I mean, so therefore I started to write, I think, notate it. So in my case now, I have to think. I'm thinking it's strange, because a lot of composers, I think, is that they start with improvisation and things like that. Obviously, you learn instruments. Why not? You play around, and why not? But for me, my issue was notation. because that has to be what I want to play or what I want to hear.
This
so
goes
then
back to the open. This goes back to the open store issue.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So therefore, I really had a long time issue with open school until I started to create a festival, and I'm always attracted by the people who are opposite to me. It's true. So I invite all those great composers and artists, and I just with my like a finger in my mouth, you know, I'm just looking at them with envy when they're rehearsing, because the score is like nothing. And then this guy comes in, you know, to tell the musicians, oh, can you just pluck a little bit there, and they just play like, yeah, do that, and then not too long, blah blah, and then a few hours later, it's a piece is there.
Yeah.
But I spent like 4 months on my parts, and then making sure percussionist has a time to change the stick, blah 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 blah. Never has a time, of course.
We never.
Yeah,
go on.
Yeah, but you know that's I was shocked. How can you do that? It's like, so I was really envious. So until the pandemic, I could not do that myself. And so anyway, so that's I started composing, and then since on the day, I still remember the day I started composing on the Thursday evening, until I start hearing my mother's footstep, because it was a typical ordinary Japanese was like apartment, so you can hear the corridor. I can hear her footstep miles away, so I have to quickly pretend I'm the end of the practice, of course. So as if I was practicing. So then I remember how joyful the composing was. So since then, I mean, I'm not doing any practicing. Why should I? I just do that. It's simply that until now. So there's no no difference. And yeah,
that's so true about you, Dai. I mean, your music is so joyful, and it always has been. I mean, like, there aren't many people. I don't think I know anyone who enjoys the craft of composing as much as you seem to. And you, I mean, you write a lot of music. Like, like you write at a pace that not many other people write as well. Like, you write a lot. I know there are many reasons for that.
Because I don't have a job.
Yeah, well, that's one of them.
It's true. Big case.
You have to a certain extent. But at the same time, like, you really like to write music, and you still do. And I think that's really an amazing thing to have, that sort of like childlike discovery of it. You've maintained.
Yeah, but
throughout your jaded adulthood.
Yeah, and especially during the pandemic. I mean, it's normal. I think. I mean, look at my family as well. It's just a weird situation, of course. And then you hear friends, and some friends are doing okay. Okay, composers doing not complaining. I understand, but many other normal people, let's say, they have difficulties. Obviously, of course, and not just pandemic, but especially in pandemic. I just thought that I think, and naively, I think it's if everybody, I mean, for example, if I'm a doctor, I would prescribe composing. It's fine. It's fun, really, because I mean, because everybody, I think a lot of people, I guess people have this pressure if whatever you're writing is good enough or not. But who cares? But you're doing for you. So if it's fun, then that's good. I mean, I don't know if you're even, and then I mean, on the other hand, I mean, why do you have to make that into profession? I mean, I have to make it into profession because I don't want to have other things to do. Like, I don't want to have a job doing something else other than composing. So that's why I had to make it into a job. But I am sure that millions of years ago, I guess people, I don't know, singing, dancing around the fire, I would imagine. I mean, those people weren't like trying to get a commission to write a song.
Yeah. Well, I think we suffer. I think we've suffered so much from the sort of like burden of like the, like Goethe and like the genius art, the tortured genius composer, and like. And I think that sort of archetype has done an enormous amount of damage to a lot of people.
I mean, by looking at these types, I was thinking sometimes these days, man, it must be hard to be European composers because those are the guys, like
no fun.
It's like, but I want to say, which I feel maybe I shouldn't say, but I feel like if it's that hard and it's torture for you, well, maybe you should stop composing. I don't know, do something else. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I didn't force you to suffer.
Well, I think there's this pervasive sort of cultural myth that the artist must suffer, and
yeah, I guess.
No,
but I mean, it's not
necessary.
Strange, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
and
not,
it's not those two. I mean, there's plenty of people who do, but I don't think it's related to the art. I don't think there's the sort of hero's journey of the artist suffering. Yeah,
romantic things.
So, anyway, yeah. Well,
but also,
I'm glad you.
Sorry, I just wanted to say something. I just realized that in your our friends from International Contemporary Ensemble, and I remember though they were saying that for the first time when the pandemic started, they sent me messages saying that my time has come. What they mean is that because I have been collaborating with musicians, like on Skype and on the telecommunication, let's say, like this. It's for like 15 years.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when you working with Dan on the on Dan Lapel, Ice's guitars, back when I was still in New York, working with Dan over like this on the piece,
and I record all of them. So I have I have all the library of all this experiment and so on. And
did we do the bowls thing for that?
Yeah, with you.
Was that over? Was that over?
Yeah, with you. Yeah.
But was that? Did we do that over?
I think so. And then also don't forget the kalimba, which it was you. It was you who said that you wanted to play. So I remember. So it's so weird that because of I can record like this. So I even when I was in the same town as the musician I'm collaborating with, sometimes I ask, I know it's weird, even back then, can we just do this and then later we go to the pub together to drink face to face? But
that way there's a document.
Yeah. So because it's kind of weird because back then. To record somebody with a camcorder was a bit of a hustle, not like the like now with a smartphone. So anyways, it's been this kind of online conversations and the collaborating. I mean, in fact, I just stopped collaborating with somebody to be on this Zoom because I was collaborating with a natural horn musician. I've never worked with a Baroque natural horn.
Yeah, with no valves.
No valves, and then a lot of weird hand stuff. And I was just getting into it because I just started collaborating yesterday. So anyway, so that's one of the reason that it's my creativity hasn't really it wasn't really sort of stopped or damaged during But anyway, so sorry, that was derailed. So anyway, so that's how I started composing, and then
you ended up in London.
Yeah. And then I remember my mother was reading a lot of famous composers' biography. One of those famous composers' biography for kids kind of thing. And then those time, so because my mother is not a musician or anything, even though she goes to amateur choir, even though that choir sang under Sinopoli, probably Sinopoli's last concert. I don't know why Sinopoli was in the suburbs of Osaka, where I'm from. I don't know. But anyway, that was a high moment. Anyway, so she was reading all these things to me, and then I just realized one thing. So as I said, why? Because she's not a musician, so she will be only reading what do you call it? Famous classical composers. And just realized they're all like German-speaking people. Like Mozart and Bach, Beethoven, Brahms, not even Debussy or anything like that. So before this, classical. Just then I realized when I was 10, I should just go to Germany. No, I'll be a composer. It's easy. They're from there. I go there. That's fine.
That's where they do that.
So I'm going to go to Germany. So that's settled. So around 12, 13, what my parents was saying, maybe you should go to, not that I speak English anyway, or any other language other than Japanese, but maybe you should go to England first to learn English. Then think about going to wherever you want to go. And then when I was 14, 15, I came to England to audition these colleges, and then because of music, and then I just picked the one who gives me more scholarship, and then I moved to England on my own when I was 15.
Yeah.
And then and so I always say this. My life hasn't really changed since like 8. Just the musicians whom I work with got better. I mean, that's even high school. I was doing this. I mean, I was already obsessed with the recording, so I was recording everyone. You're talking about like some teenager who I don't know, who touched the instruments once a week, that kind of thing. But I don't know. That was so I was doing that, and basically that's it.
And you still are. Yeah.
The same thing, really. Really same.
Well, so I want to transition a little bit into talking about, so I considered, because Array was involved in the commission
Sure,
for a new trio of yours. And so I was considering, talking about that trio piece, but I'm going to selfishly instead want to talk about the solo percussion piece that I did. I'm talking about it. So the piece was written for one of my heroes. And who's Isao Nakamura, who's a percussionist who you've developed a kind of a really close relationship with over the last few years. And so it was really quite lovely for me to play this piece that you wrote for him, because you and I've always talked about doing a solo piece, and it's never come to pass. But I feel like it was I really loved playing this piece that you wrote for Nakamura. And so if you could talk about a little bit about him and about your collaboration with him.
I think, hang on a minute. Did you say that as a percussionist? Maybe you shouldn't really say as a percussionist, I don't know. But you prefer to, how should I word it? You prefer to play those percussion instruments other than keyboard instruments? Is it fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, you personally. Yeah. I think it depends on the situation, but like I don't really enjoy solo marimba for me. Like I find it too much of a struggle for me to
because I remember you saying that, but I wasn't so sure I should actually say. So
no. I'm more of a percussionist than
of course.
I play plenty of those things. But like you won't find me programming a solo marimba piece on a recital. You know what I mean? Sure. And like I'm much more of I'm a drummer at heart, and I'm a noise guy at heart.
Yeah, sure.
And
but then because there's a marimba player who doesn't play other than marimba. Only marimba.
I mean, that's right. There's a whole kind of specialization in marimba, and you're like, I started in on the first few bars of marimba solo and was like, it's just not my, it's not me. Sure. I mean, I like the piece. It's nothing to do with the piece. It's just that I don't particularly enjoy playing.
I understand. So, and then Isao plays marimba very, very beautifully too. But I always. I don't know. I knew him. He was also my hero too, because when I sneaked in to Darmstadt summer school, I actually didn't enroll in. I just sneaked in for a few days. I mean, I don't know. And then he was sitting in front of me, but I knew who he was. But I was like, I don't know, 20. So I didn't want to say anything. I didn't say anything. And then later he said, "Well, you should say hi." But who am I to say? So anyway, I remember his performance, of course, live as well as like recording and so on. But then years later, he asked me to write a piece for him, and then I just remember, because when I'm writing something for a specific musician, I like to think that I think that it's my job to get the best out of that performer. And I have this philosophy that if the musician look good at the premiere, I look good.
Okay,
it is, isn't it? I mean,
it makes total sense. Yeah.
And then also at the same time, I started to realize, but this has to happen, after a certain age for me anyway, that when I was younger, that I was asking question like, is it possible to play? Is it possible, not possible? That was my question. And a lot of composers are like that too, I think, which is fair. But then later I started to work with the great musicians. I just realized that it's not, is it possible to play, but can you play with your best sound in this situation or not? Because those people can play, but then,
like how much would you have to compromise to do this?
But I mean, but also at the same time, great musician. Great musicians, they are great musicians for a reason, and I shouldn't be canceling that out. As in, that's the person, special person, which is different from the other musicians, whatever the instruments may be. But they're great musicians. Right. So then I started to really understand, or trying to understand that. Not just go and write a percussion piece, let's say. Percussion piece, he's a great musician, famous musician, write a piece, done. But instead of that, and he's sweating around and playing this, let's say, running around and people like it, and then that's that. Rather doing that, I was thinking, what is the special thing about him? Because I remember him playing bongo, which I didn't know. Every percussionist afterwards told me that, well, bongo is a special thing, and not everyone can play bongo because you're a percussionist. I was like, why? What? Because you're a percussionist? I knew, because but it's different because, I mean, Isao was playing some piece, I don't know which piece, but whatever the piece, obviously not my piece. Bongo, which he was just hitting with a hand. Of course, I remember he was saying that he's telling students that the bongo should sound, the loudness should be at the same loudness as when you play with a stick. Stick or hand is the same, and the hand sound better. So no stick. Anyway, so he was just relaxing and then hitting. I know, but you see that action, so you would think, you sort of in your mind you imagine, okay, acoustic, okay, that kind of loudness. I was just amazed at how powerful that was from that guy's hand. Boom, like. It's incredible.
And a real someone who's there's a reason in a salsa band. There's just one guy who plays the congas, and that's all he plays. He's a congero. He doesn't play the other stuff. He plays the congas. And if you ever touch their hands, they're like hugely callous but soft, and they can play that louder than I can hit it with a stick.
So then I just thought what, and then just keep and then they started this online collaboration. This is before COVID, of course, and the biggest challenge was teaching him how to use Skype on his mobile phone. That was the hardest thing ever. Rather than everything else was fine. And anyway, because of so I wanted to, I think you taught me as well, and that makes you happy, I hope, that I just wanted to make sure that setup is minimum as possible. Not one of those forest percussion thing with modern music. It's modern music concert. We have a forest now.
With the kitchen sink.
Kitchen sink. And then also at the same time, my teacher, George Benjamin, was telling me, completely nothing to do with this piece, but he was telling me when he was teaching me that there's a problem with that often percussionists hit the instruments with the wrong stick because no time to change. And then you are going the circus, of course, which is entertaining and everything, I'm sure. But anyway, so how can I go opposite? So I was asking him, is there any instrument you always travel with? And he said bongo, and then other handheld Brazilian percussions, because that's he does.
Right.
And then let's experiment with that. So that's how we started experimenting every night. In fact, every night he's doing, and then there's his mobile phone videos cuts off in the middle because storage issues, and so all that was a challenging part. But then everything else was great, and then and also he's got this amazing groove, which is not sort of like a how can I say Western groove, but I don't know what
he doesn't play like a classical like a classical player. He plays it. I mean, he plays all the instruments with yeah, sort of more. Yeah, I mean, that's much more Brazilian style. Like, yeah,
absolutely.
He's clearly studied it, and like, it's like kind
but
of
he taught there.
Yeah, exactly. So, he does it. They're more natural to him than they are for a lot of us that try to do it.
So then, but maybe now it's a good to do this kind of talk. I think that now I think of it, maybe this was a little step for myself before get to the Zoom piece we were talking about before, the open score, because this piece is not open score, but I just realized that because he's as we both said, he's a great musician. So if I notate them, he would play. But I could immediately see over the computer screen, for him is a smartphone screen, that I could see that if as more accurately I notate, it's sort of killing that vibe of he has got this special groove going on, but I'm killing it because of I'm notating them. And then he wants to be precise, of course. So then I just realized, talk to him that what if I notate the rhythms, but you can actually construct, and then they keep the groove, and then that was and then he immediately felt it was good. I mean, I don't know what was it for you, because you played.
That was really that makes, and I can see that entirely. That, I mean, it worked. I don't know that I quite have like his comfort level with Brazilian instruments, for instance. So I think in some ways, I think it worked for me, but in some ways, like, maybe I guess what I mean is, I doubt that if you and I were collaborating on the same piece and the same sort of thing, you may not have gotten to that decision. You know what I mean? Because I don't think I would have necessarily been doing the thing that.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
I wouldn't have been. There wouldn't have been anything for you to kill in that.
I understand. But then again, I have to say that I was particularly, and this is really true, because until we go on Zoom now, I didn't know what we were going to talk about. So I'm so glad you're talking about this piece, because I don't know, you remember, but of course you don't remember, years ago, I mean, like 2006 or 7, something like this, that maybe I saw you playing something, percussion piece, using your hands, and I was quite envious that.
Wait, was it Rose piece?
Maybe, I don't know, other piece, I don't know, something to do with
the one that's all hand claps.
Yeah, no, I know that piece, that's great too. But I mean, there were other things that, because you were very different kind of percussionists from symphonic orchestral percussionists, let's say. I could see that even then. So I was just wondering, and then I had ensemble pieces you were playing. You were playing in ensemble, because at that time the International Contemporary Ensemble were not commissioning, because they were quite still small then. Bigger,
we were playing mostly
existing pieces. So therefore, all my percussion parts were quite. It's a very written, like keyboards and so on. So then I just realized that, well, I mean, how can I do something with you with other than that? And then so I was really I was so happy that you were playing this piece Uri, which we were talking about, the piece originally written for Nakamura, but Isao-san, but I think it was you who decided, because you were the director, you decided to play Uri, and then I was just so happy, because that was the kind of things I wanted to do with you too. And I was just imagining what.
No, that's nice.
It was so nice to see
the piece
playing.
The piece works for me, I think, very well.
Yeah, absolutely. And but in a way, but also the how you played was so elegant, and it was so great, and it was different from Isao's, and which it has to be. It has to be. That's one of the things also I don't like in a lot of kind of written out, no, it doesn't have to be written out, let's say, contemporary music. Let's say, I don't want to say in general, but let's say when I was younger, because when you're young, as a young composer, your dream is just to get it performed. I just want to hear it once, please, just once. Once, all I want, once. And then after that, another step is that I think it started getting played by several different musicians, and that's just a real luxury. Then you start seeing not which one is better, but they are equally great. There are many equally great ensembles and musicians and so on. And then they should sound different, of course.
Yeah.
And then I just wanted to, I was in a way more greedy, the fact that how can I make it even more different from the same score, and then great musicians are taking their own path to the interpretation. And because I mean, otherwise, what's the point, really?
I mean, I think, you know, that's the strange thing about it. I think we're up against this and we've been up against this with classical music for so long now. I mean, I feel like, you know, we spend so much time trying to do exactly what's written. And not only do we spend so much time trying to do exactly what's written, we spend so much time trying to make it sound exactly like it sounds on the recording we first heard.
Oh, yeah.
You
know, that's another thing,
and,
yes.
And I think that, you know, and I think we spend a lot of time learning that way as players, you know, and I think it's changed us a little bit, and it's changed our process in a little bit, and I don't think it has for the better necessarily.
Yeah,
I mean, certainly I think, you know, people are probably a lot more accurate than they were 50 years ago, like accurate to the score.
Yeah, sure.
Years ago. But I wonder what else we've lost, you know, and I wonder what that has to do with, like, you know, all of these, you know, all of the sort of concerns about how, you know, youth don't come to classical music concerts, and how, you know, and I wonder if I can't help but wonder if those two things are connected in some ways, you know, if we lose, you know, if we're sort of flattening out these individual voices, or we've spent all this time doing that, you know, flattening out the individual voices, are we making it less interesting to listen to?
It's very interesting that you say that, and then also that's also changed my behavior, I guess, in a way. I guess that's also something to do with, getting older, I think, meaning that when I was younger, when I was a young composer, then obviously the musicians are older usually, and then they are testing the fact that, do I know what exactly I want? And I should tell them, and it goes, wow, he knows what he's talking about, he's a good composer, whatever it is, all that stuff, which is not true. But I mean, that, and then, but now, when I work with now generally musicians are nicer, I would say, especially in orchestral situation, but also even the soloist musicians, they're very nice, and then they can be, definitely they can be younger than me, and sometimes they, just because I'm older, the problem is that if I say something in rehearsal, the problem is they might listen to me. That's the problem, you see. Then that becomes boring. That becomes boring, because I know only what I think it should be. But again, maybe piece should be different. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's a bit like this. So your father too, so you know this. So you have a child, but we don't know everything about that child. Like my parents don't know everything about me, and that's normal. So therefore, it's because the composer wrote it, that doesn't mean composer knows everything about the piece, what's best for it. Sometimes the great musician, they come up and they present something which it works for them, and I would think, I never thought of that. So therefore it's sometimes best not to interrupt them. And then that's more of the case when it comes to, now I realize, like opera, which is funny with opera, because if you think about it, it's kind of strange thing, like a movie, then you make a movie, and then whatever it is, and the remake, that would be like a 10 years time, 15 years time, and probably once, and that's it, if there is. But opera, you wrote one opera, and then hopefully it gets staged many places, and then staged by different directors. And I'm just astonished the score is the same, nothing changed. And then those different directors who got this incredible imagination, of course, that's their things to do. They don't want to do the other person, so they'll take entire different way. And then they're also nice. They always check in with the composer. Funny enough, they say, we think it's so that we don't throw tantrum or anything. I always wanted to tell them, like, look, I'm just coming there as an audience. Please do whatever you need to do. And the results are quite interesting. For example, like the scene which is supposed to be one person dies, let's say, in a story, and then the other director, that person is dead already for like a while before. And then there's singing talking as a ghost, or completely different interpretation, which I didn't see that coming, kind of thing.
And there's this tradition of that in theater and in
theater, of course, yes.
That we've just like kind of stepped away from in a lot of music.
So this is similar with in a way with the musicians too. And as I said that, so sometimes the musicians really, it works for that person. And if you look at the microscopic part, like only this few seconds, okay, I don't want you to play like that, let's say. But again, if you hear it, okay, I get that. I know what you're doing. And that's great. And then, so that's, I think that's a wonderful thing. So therefore, I don't know, sometimes I worry, I mean, it's no my business to worry, but I worry when there's a very famous historic composer conductor who would record his or her own compositions, and that is a reference recordings. But also at the same time, but then again, I don't know, should it be that way? I mean, because of the composer conduct, which is a wonderful thing, but I don't know, who are anyone to say that could be just one of it, or you're just a parent of the composition, you don't know it, you don't know your child, which is often the case.
That's the danger. There's that extra sort of assumed authority over what it's supposed to be and over what it's supposed to sound like. But
and then like as if my daughter would listen to what I say. Come on. Of course,
we all know that they don't. Forget it.
Of course we don't. And so as a composition, it's their own life. They have their thing, and they have their special. Hopefully, if the piece is somewhat meaningful, let's say, the piece start having their own collaborator who is musicians, and then they work together with things without me. And sometimes some of the musicians I worked with, it's some I quite like that they would they would check with me, say I'm playing like this, in a way, as in I know, hope this, if anything, just tell me, but I know for a fact that it means I am playing like this, so that's it. And then I sometimes as a great musician I work with that makes sense, as in well, I know that she just wanted me to say yes. I mean, because it's a but then again, it's a wonderful thing that as a composer you write a piece and then you can just have a different versions, and then hopefully when the COVID is over with the audience, that's happening in front of them. So that's different and much more advantageous than so-called recording artists. You there?
Yeah, sorry.
No.
Hello?
Hi.
I got another phone call. Sorry about that.
Okay. So it's very different from like a recording artist, because I mean, well, recording artists, I mean, like pop musicians, they make the studio album and then they tour, but the work is the studio album. Okay, live from New York. Okay, the album is one. Okay, but that's another one. So, but in the classical, in a way, the great things about classical musicians can have their take on this, and hopefully the score I write can have the capacity to
allow them to do that.
Well, then for me to think that, I had to get older to think that. When I was young, it's you have to. I mean, I hope that the musicians are nicer to young composers, because young musicians being difficult too, but being young composer is very difficult. And
I think you're right. I think it's easy to assume that a young composer doesn't know what they should. And
but that's a good thing. They don't know. It's a good thing they don't know. I mean, why should one know? But again, also we were always pressured that I should know, because your piece, or are you writing notes which it doesn't make sense even to you, kind of thing.
I know that from my own experience, the few times that I thought something truly failed, or really didn't work as a performance or as a piece or as something, usually it was when we as performers interfered with the composer.
You performance as a what? Do you
Interfered with the
interfere?
composer.
Yeah.
The very handful of times that I can think of looking back at over the 20 years of doing this, the very few times that I think something really didn't work, I think from the advantage of my perspective now, I think to myself, yeah, they were right and we were wrong.
Yeah, but also at the same time that composers, we get often put on spot, you see. Yeah. So and then they're not. I mean, also composers are not often standing in front of people. And I mean, I feel okay, but I know other composers who just it's not their personality to, and it's not their job to announce do a speech or something like this. Yeah. So that doesn't make them a bad composer. They're just that kind of character. And then also sometimes when I teach, very little, but I have to say that working with individual like this is like absolutely golden. But when it comes to ensembles, and so I mean, it's fair. It's a rehearsal time. It's I mean, that's a part of the game. And when it comes to orchestra, you can't just say, oh, but if the orchestra had a 5-day rehearsal, but you are not going to have one.
You're not going to have a 5-day rehearsal.
That's the part of it. And then and how do you make that into the best result possible? And so those are not necessarily a compromise or anything, but that's the game. I mean, I'm not a sports fan, so I don't know, but I'm sure like football and stuff, they have rules, right? And then they do play games, and then I imagine that's an exciting thing. So it's the same. There's a rule, and then which is what do you do best in there, and so that's the So that's a difficult. And you put on the spot, and then you're being told, is it F or F sharp, or is it forte or piano, and then but then also it's I think the most correct answer is that I don't know. Because unless you play it, how do we know? But I mean, that kind of stuff. So it's a difficult things. But I mean, few tricks and so. But I had a good teacher, you see. But I had a good teacher who were all performers. Like my first teacher, Arraymusic, he was double bassist in many things, and he was playing in. He was a jazz player, and he was an improviser. So if I were a good student. I would have learned. I learned so much from him. I mean, he's like my dad, but I would have learned so much about the open score because that was his thing. But at that time, I was 18 to 21, 22. I mean, I was into this European composer thing. I wanted to be, so I wanted to write everything, and this improvisation. It's not like this. So I mean, I'm still in touch with him quite regularly. So I'm looking back now. I'm kind of digesting 20 years later. I'm digesting what he taught me, even though that time I was dismissing. Even though he's a good teacher, he doesn't mind. He didn't mind that, but So those are the important. And I'm trying to say that he was teaching me how to behave in front of musicians and orchestra. That was actually very good lesson for me. For example, when the orchestra, that all eyes are on you and they don't want to play your music. I mean, they wish it was Mozart. It's the same fee. I mean, why do you have to do this? What's that? All that stuff. Anyway, it's clear. And the conductor, we don't know the conductor is with me or with orchestra. Probably with orchestra because he or she needs another gig, of course. Because they are laughing at their jokes and so on, blah, blah, blah. But I'm here to defend my piece, of course, in the next 10 minutes because that's what we have. And then my teacher told me that when somebody asks you, is it forte or piano or whatever, is it this or that? The answer is obviously you don't know, but just say one of them. And then they will play, and then you can say, I changed my mind, it's the other. Just don't say or I don't know, because then
all credibility.
So that kind of thing that was very useful for me. That really helped me to make a bridge with working with musicians, actually, because I'm just a composer. So, and then funny enough, now I think of it, I have very little composer friends, to be honest. All my friends are musicians. My musicians like my family. you know, and I just like, I just hear about the other composers from the musicians. Oh, you know, that composer I worked with the other week, it was a nightmare. That's what I hear. But I don't really actually know many composers.
I'm trying to, yeah, no, yeah. I mean, sometimes I don't, yeah. Sometimes I feel like I know more composers than I know
absolutely.
percussionists. Yeah.
Oh, I see. I see. Yeah, I see. Yeah.
Especially now, as you know, since I'm more doing as much programming as I am playing now.
But you know, but it's the funny thing is that that's your true calling, because I mean you were programming way before, not
yeah,
way before. Yeah. And I remember one time you were, if I may say so, you were working in a publisher.
You may say so, yes.
Yeah. And then you were you know, part of your job as that publisher, you were you have to you were representing my work.
I was right. I was Dai's representative in the in North America, actually. Yeah, North America. Yeah. And there was a funny twist in our relationship. But as far as day jobs go.
Yeah, but I remember you were emailing me that Dai, do you have, which pieces of yours have been performed in North America? And I told you, if you have not programmed, it has not performed.
If I haven't done
That's
it.
That's right. I mean, as before you became you became publisher. Yeah. I mean, for a while, because you were programming in ensemble. Yeah. So if you haven't played it, then no,
it's true. I in programming is, I really enjoy it. Yeah, I really enjoy it as much as the playing. It's and I have been doing it for, like, Claire and I did it together, and Josh and Claire and I did it together for a long time with Ice, and then it's there's that feeling when a program comes together.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, when you're like it's all kind of amorphous, and then all of a sudden something clicks, and like, oh, that will work, and it's just very satisfying. You know?
But also at the same time, it's a really juggling and in a good way act with a budget, as well as the people. I think the musicians, because I mean the two things, isn't it? The musicians, as a personal level they get on, but the musically it's a little different. It's not like they don't get on, but it's a different, or other around. So because I mean there's a kind of unspeakable magic can happen in not just classical. I mean, in any live performance, but it's definitely in the classical music, any new music too. And you want that to happen. Well, you want that to happen every piece in a program. So how do we aim that? And then those are interesting things.
All of these little constraints are fun. Like, there's all these little moving parts and little fun. Like, it's a puzzle. So it's a little puzzle of programming, and like there's that particular like jolt of satisfaction when all the pieces come together, and you're like, oh look, it's a White House, you know.
That's true. Yeah, so, and then it makes sense, and it can be more than it makes sense, and it's an extra bonus, and it's nice, and it's nice that your space, performance space. I really like it.
We like it, and we're looking forward to it opening back up so that people can come in and sit there and listen to the show.
And I'm sure I'm sure it is nothing new for you, but I always remember that I always tell people that to cool beer, you just put it outside, right?
That's right. It's Canada, man. We can do that.
It's amazing. I know. It's amazing. It's amazing. I always tell people that. Do you know what people do in Canada with beer? It's amazing. It was brilliant. I loved it.
All right, man. We should probably go, and
sure. Thank you.
Let you get on with your evening, and I've got to see what the kids have destroyed while you and I were talking.
Thank you for having me.
Because I'm sure it's something. All right, man.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Nice to see you. Bye bye.